Joey Drew Studios released a secret Bendy and the Ink Machine Chapter 5 teaser to their email list. What's featured in this teaser? How's it linked to Henry and the Lost Ones? And what does this hint at in the story for Bendy Chapter 5? Let's analyze it and find out. The screenshot shows an underground area decorated with fairy lights. Judging from the plant at the bottom of the teaser and the rock formation in the foreground, it seems to be an extension of the area we last visited in Chapter 4. Specifically, it looks like the inner depths of the locations we've seen in previous teasers for Bendy Chapter 5. This means that it could be linked to the Lost Ones and the Lost One that we saw in one of the last public teasers. How so though? We suggested in the previous teaser analysis that the Lost Ones may have used this area as a living space, but I've also mentioned that we've seen them gather around in other areas. Also, in this screenshot we can see a lot of wooden construction work, but this area looks to be rather small and deliberately open, so it wouldn't be very comfortable to live in. Not that Joey Drew Studios is exactly the place you'd call home, especially as it is now, but I wouldn't want to live in these small open huts with an ink demon that can hear everything on the loose. So, what are they there for? That is where Henry comes in. We've had many puzzle pieces for Chapter 5 present themselves over the last few weeks, and it seems they come together to paint a story of Henry escaping from his captors. He locates a boat and travels down a tunnel, triggering a similar scene to that in the roller coaster ride from Chapter 4, where he gets to soak in the atmosphere of these flooded caves. And that's where these teasers come together. It seems that all of them hint towards us discovering Bendyland water attractions. It makes sense that the lower we go into the studio, the deeper the ink pools will become, since it is getting ink leaking from the very top of the studio with its bursting ink pipes and all. We are experiencing the story through Henry's eyes, which is a strangely twisted version of a Bendy fan entering one of their favorite theme parks. We all get to experience what a land version of a Bendy theme park will be, and in Chapter 5 we'll experience a water version. One of the best analogies I've seen on this is it'll be like one of those Pirates of the Caribbean rides. It's all fun and games when you first think about it, but then you realize that an area flooded with ink has darker consequences for Henry and the Lost Ones. Now, what could those consequences be? Well, remember what happens in Chapter 2? When trying to reach the whistling door facing forward, Bendy will spawn from the pool of ink. We can only hope that the same doesn't apply for this deeper ink pool, and that the boat is safe enough in case such a thing happens. This also makes it less likely that this area is a living space for the Lost Ones, as they are far safer in the rooms we find them in Chapter 4. Now, what does this mean for the story overall? Considering all of this together, it makes Joey Drew's ambition seem so much larger and serious than we first expected. It makes so many disturbing events in the story that we've seen so far make so much more sense, from the broken down equipment in the studio to some of the audio logs we've heard so far. And do you know what the cherry on the top is? At the bottom of the teaser, we can see that Joey Drew Studio was established in 1929, which isn't the first time we've seen this information, but it has a serious implication on the story. If Bendy and the Ink Machine has a similar history as the real world, the events of the game took place at the start of the Great Depression, an economic disaster that lasted for roughly a decade. Considering that this coincides with Joey Drew opening his studio and forcing the construction of not only the Ink Machine, its ink pipe network, heaps of ink and expansions to the main studio, but also an entire theme park with grand land and water attractions, it's no wonder that Grant Cohen went completely bonkers when trying to manage finances. If Joey Drew was trying to create all of this and attempting to borrow money from investors in the process, the Great Depression, a period where money circulation slows and many stop investing and spending, would throw a massive wrench in his plans. Even if he opened his grand attractions to the public, most people who enjoyed Joey Drew's cartoons would not have the money to even attend. It would affect everything in the studio all the way to producing the animations themselves, which stopped being done on time according to Wally Franks. All of this forcing Joey to invest in cheaper and cheaper workers who were incompetent at their jobs. It gives a whole new meaning behind why Wally complained about everyone walking around so sad. It all boils down to them experiencing a Great Depression. Joey Drew would be stuck in a rut, forcing him to make a deal with the devil to make his dreams come true. And this would force his staff to work for the rest of their existence in an inky prison, each trying their best to make their twisted boss happy. And maybe only a select few who clearly saw through his obsession could keep control of their actions. Bendy and the Ink Machine is going to feature so much more exciting stuff. Tap this playlist to find out more about that, or check out these videos which were picked just for you. Prodigies, I hope these videos help to expand on how you think. See ya!